Hi there, this is Gary Wilson. Welcome to this week's live Path to Prosperity webinar. Welcome to all the students, investor agent students, coaching students. Some of you are in a flipping program, some of you are in the property management program, which is turning rental problems into real estate profits, of course. Buying rental properties, wholesaling, and even some of you were in the original pilot for the commercial program. So in any case, always be sure, whether you're listening to this live or in recorded mode, always look for the email from Beverly the next day after every webinar, because it has in there, changes to the systems, we've just made a major change. Obviously, the learning management system, the new system has been rolled out, and there are some other changes coming up that you'll be made aware of, but also changes to the calendar. The weekly webinars, the webinars for February have just been sent out, so you should have that. Beverly will put that in tomorrow's recap of tonight's webinar too. So in any case, so always look for that, because it kind of keeps you glued to what's happening with the platforms. So also on the webinar here, you'll notice that you're also, if you're new, you're by default muted, okay? And that's by design, because we can't all be talking at the same time. So you use your chat function to ask questions, okay? So far so good. Now tonight's subject, we're going to talk about your contact management system. It really doesn't matter which system you're using. What matters is that you are using a system. For years I've used Top Producer. They made some pretty dramatic improvements on several occasions. I really like the system for most realtors. If you're doing more than that, what used to be called Infusionsoft is now owned by Keep. Keep's a great system. Keller Williams just came out with a new system called Command. It's pretty awesome. You can add custom fields, all kinds of neat stuff. But the main thing is, that's your goal. The gold is in your database, okay? We want to constantly add to it. We want to constantly groom it and, improve our records, our information on our individual contacts. We want to delete contacts that are no longer good contacts. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to kind of step you through one step at a time. And my hope and wish and prayer is that you actually will do this, because this is what I learned to do 20 some odd years ago. And right now, I'll just tell you, I have 70,000 contacts, okay? In the beginning, my first exercise, I started off with 20, a whopping 20. So I'm telling you, I don't care if you've been stuck away in a cave, you're now out in the public. You can definitely do this. Like, you can definitely increase your database and have it be a well-qualified, profitable database too. So here's how we're going to start it this way. All right. When I first took my licensing classes, I had a great teacher, John Zisner. He's no longer with us, rest his soul, great teacher. And I had come out of IT in the banking world, okay? Specifically, I was working on mergers and acquisitions. All I did was, I didn't deal with people, I dealt with systems, okay? Before that, I was a government contractor. I worked for the Navy, Department of Defense, tracking Soviet subs. I had a top secret clearance. And guys, they had me working in a room, inside of a room that was inside of a building that was inside a fenced off, cordoned off area, okay? I didn't see anybody there either. So needless to say, when I got into real estate, I retired years later at the ripe old age of 40, because I just didn't want to be working in the corporate world anymore. Well, prior to that, I got my license. And I remember in the first class, John Zender was saying, everybody start documenting all the people you know. You should have between 200 and 300 people. And I'm like, I don't think I know that many people. So the first exercise, I wrote down a whopping 20 people. Came back, told John, I said, John, maybe I'm in the wrong place. I don't know if I should be doing this. I got like 10% of what you suggested, minimum. And he said, relax, Wilson, I'm going to show you. He said, you do know 200 to 300 people. You just don't believe it. Your recall function's not, you got to trigger your recall function. And here's what he told me to do. This is one of the oldest tricks in the book, and it works today just like it worked all 25 years ago, okay? 20 years ago. Believe it or not, the major phone companies still produce phone books. They do, physical phone books, okay? Even if you don't have a physical phone book, you can go to the phone book online. You can go to yellowpages.com, whitepages.com. Okay, they're all out there. I prefer to have a physical book in front of me, just something, just how my brain works. Well, here's what he told me to do, okay? To initially build your database, he said, go to the A's first, okay? Now check this out. Some of you are in big giant cities. Some of you are in cities like New York, Toronto, what have you. And some of you are in small towns, okay? I get it, because the town I grew up in years ago, it wouldn't even be qualified as a town. No traffic light, nothing, no store. It was just basically I don't even know why they call it a town, quite frankly. But in any case, you go to the A's. So just let me walk you through this exercise. Everybody put your pencils down for just a second. What happens is you're going to start with the A's, able, on through to the end of the A's, all right? And what's going to happen is you're going to see a name every now and then. You probably see several A's actually. It's going to trigger your recall function and think, gee, you know what? I actually do know Charlie Abel, all right? And you write down, or actually you should type it in your content management system, Charlie Abel. At this point, you don't want to try to go retrieve content information. You can type in whatever you have at that point. If they're in the phone book and you got a number, type it in, okay? All you're doing right now is you're recording the name. That's all you're doing is you're triggering your recall function and record a name. And you're basically going to build your database, okay? So as you imagine, you do that for the B's, and then the C's, and then the D's, so forth and so on. Now you can do this one letter per day if you want to take a whole month to do it. That way you can spend maybe an hour a night max for 26 days. And I'm pretty sure I'd be willing to bet my next commission. In fact, by the time you're done with the Z's, I'd be shocked if you don't have 200 people minimum, probably closer to 300 or more. Okay. It was an old trick. First, when you told me, I thought, I'm like, are you serious? You know, probably your recall function. He said, this process is going to trigger your recall function. So here's what happens, guys. I'm not a scientist. I'm telling you what happens based on my understanding. This is my wording. Your ability, your memory is actually two parts, storage and retrieval, okay? When people say, I don't have a good memory, they're actually referring to the recall part. The storage part is intact, unless you've got some sort of physical or physiological disability or injury, brain injury. Your storage function is everything you've thought, everything you've heard, seen, smelled, tasted, touched, okay? It's all in there. Believe me, it's all in there, okay? They're in there too. I have remembered dreams. Some of you might have, like some people just say they remember they could dream, right? So in any case, what happens is, think of it as in terms of layers, right? Your memory is in terms of layers. It works in layers. So when you come up with the name Abel, all right, what happens is your recall function goes in and says, wait a second, let's pull back the next layer. There might be another one here, Abelowski, Abelinsky, Abelorski, whatever. I'm not picking on anybody with a Polish last name, but just telling you, these are examples of what happens when you trigger your recall function, okay? So this is why I know I've done this myself, and I know that you'll experience the same thing and be able to read you would have otherwise been able to, all right? So that's step one. Step two is you want to go try to retrieve their contact information. Maybe they're in the phone book, maybe they're not. Your recall function came up with additional subcategory names. We call it a subcategory. Well, then what you can do is, if you haven't seen them for a while and you don't have their email, you don't have their phone number, go to Facebook. Look at it. Look for Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, okay? Pinterest. Go to the different sites, type in their name, and see if you can find them. Send them a message, okay? So in any case, it's not hard today to find people's contact information. In fact, you can Google almost anybody and get basic information, all right? So in any case, that's the second step. You want to build the database as completely as possible. Now that's step one and step two of part one. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to part two, okay? Here's part two. To keep the database growing, there's always a number of things you can do, but one of the easiest things you can do is this. You want to record every single person that you run into every single day, okay? For example, on any given day, most of us are going to go into a grocery store, a pharmacy, a department store, a gas station, a garage, a library, a government building to renew your license. Just always something to do every single day. The dentist, chiropractor, you name it. Okay, let's just take the grocery store to somebody that you knew from high school, from college, church, whatever. Okay, I don't keep my planner with me. I still use this, right? You've all seen me with this, okay? But this is always in my car. I might not take it inside the grocery store, but believe me, it's in the car. So what I do when I get back out to the car, I write their name down, right? Here, Bailey Doreen, perfect example, just did that today, okay? I put that information into my database and I go try to find our contact information. Now in the grocery store, if you knew them, you might say, hey, you're on Facebook? What's your email address? I'll reach out to you next time and maybe catch up and invite you over to the neighborhood picnic, okay? Now, you'll meet people you know, and you also meet people you don't know. So let's say you're standing in line at the checkout counter, and it's a long line, and the checkout clerk is new, clearly taking a long time and maybe needing help, and the guy behind you makes some comment. You turn back and you make some comment back. Maybe you strike up a little brief conversation. And what's interesting is, what is one of the first questions we almost always ask somebody when you meet them, like at a party, for example? Yeah, it's what do you do? What do you do? What do you? So now you know what they do. Okay. Well, it doesn't matter what they do. I mean, well, it does, but what matters to you is you now know what they do for a living, and you can keep the conversation going and say, how interesting. I've worked with engineers just like you before, helping them invest in real estate. Or they might ask you directly, what do you do? And you say, well, I'm a real estate agent. I work with real estate investors, or I'm an investor myself, right? Or you're both. I mean, most of you should be both by now. Believe it or not, that'll get a lot of people interested in getting more information. Then what you can do is this, always use that as a lead into, you know what? I tell you what, we're at a party right now. How about if I send you some information for free that I think would help you flip a home, buy a rental, what have you? If they don't have a card with them, and they probably won't in a social setting like a party, but you should, on your phone, just type it in. Or now phones, sometimes you can match phones up like that and they share information, all right? At a minimum, what you can do is just do a quick recording, John Smith at yahoo.com and met at Christmas party, whatever. Or have them type in their phone number and their name. Now you've got contact information. What I'm getting at is this. At the end of the day, you should have one or more new contacts, or contacts you don't know if they're in your system or not. You just want to validate that they are or aren't, and if they are not, you want to add them. And this is something you want to do every single day at the end of the day. I do it after dinner, okay? Because when I go home, when my kids are small, of course, you play parental role. Might have to get dinner on the table, things like that, help kids with homework. But what I do is I go back to my computer, go back to my notes, and look at my database and see if they're already in there. And if they're not, I add them, okay? And this is one of the best techniques to build a database using grassroots effort. It doesn't cost a dime. All it takes is for you to be cognizant of it, aware of it, and always be looking for the opportunities to record information, okay? Now, that's part 2, all right? And we're making some good progress tonight. If you have questions, go ahead and type them in the chat box. So some people are saying, oh, good. I didn't realize the audio. Okay, so audio sound, it looks good now. Great, or sounds good. If you have questions, please let me know. Just type them in, okay? Because what I'm going to do, tonight's session probably won't take the full hour because it's so finite and precise. Well, we've gone through 2 parts. Part 1 is how do you build it, the database. Part 2 is how do you update it, maintain it, okay? And part 3 is how do we segment and clean up our database and make it more profitable. All right. So here's what we do. You should do this every time you add a contact, and every year you should go through this exercise too. But every time you add a contact, you should have a custom field that allows you to identify people based on client type. In other words, owner occupant would be a type. Investor would be a type, right? Within those categories, within the owner occupant category, you could have a sub custom field that identifies them as first time home buyer, move up buyer, emerging retiree, vacation home buyer, whatever the case is, or maybe they're downsizing, all right? Now on the investor side, you've obviously got multiple categories there. Somebody might be a flipper, somebody might be a landlord buying rentals, somebody might be a wholesaler, somebody may need property management, okay? So here's what I want you to do. Every time you add somebody into your database, the first part of that category, the main category, is investor or owner occupant. You're going to identify them on a scale of 1 to 10. This is my personal recommendation. 1 being least likely to want to invest, and 10 being highly likely to want to invest, okay? You're ranking them on a scale of 1 to 10 based on information you know about them, because you might ask the question, well, how did I meet them? What do I know about them? Why do I think, what is it that made me think they may be interested in investing? Maybe you saw a Rich Dad, Poor Dad book or Think and Grow Rich book on their coffee table the last time we were at their house, or they had some type of a training manual on buying rentals, for example, on their kitchen table. Those are strong indicators that they're likely to be interested in investing. So you would categorize them like an 8 or a 9 or a 10. Okay. The next subcategory is what type of investing. That's where you put in W for wholesale, F for flip, your R for rental. And if they're a combination, you could separate, called parsing, put F for flip, comma, R for rental, right? These are just ideas for you to segment your database, and you should definitely do this, and here's why. You want to have specific niched marketing for each specific group of people. In other words, you wouldn't market to a flipper the same way you would market to a person buying rentals, a landlord, okay? You would use different examples. You would use different language patterns, different messaging, and sometimes different media, okay? And certainly this holds true for owner occupants too, okay? With owner occupants, you wouldn't send out the same marketing campaign to first-time home buyers that you would send to emerging retirees. You would use a different message. So here's the big benefit of this is when you can do niche level marketing, which we specifically targeted marketing and direct response marketing, the combination of direct response marketing with highly targeting your marketing results in you having much higher response rates and much higher conversion rates because you're speaking that person's language. We call this entering the conversation that's already going on inside their head. They maybe already are thinking about flipping a home, so send them an electronic version of the booklet with examples of flips in there, okay? And give them terminology associated with flipping. All right. And also, if your database is sophisticated enough, and it should be, you can also do what's called sort merge, which means your emails to go out would have the recipient's individual names. And you always want to use first name, by the way, with one exception. So let's just talk about emails for the moment because we're talking about our database. All right. So when you send an email campaign out, you should always refer to everybody by first name. You can determine that in your parsings, your instructions, okay? Now, if they're a doctor, there's one exception. Doctors generally like to be referred to as doctor and their last name, okay? Just a general rule of thumb. Most everybody else, you can use first name. Okay, I'm on a first name basis with some of my doctors, and I still refer to them as Dr. So-and-so, their last name, all right? The only exception would be my brother-in-law, who's a surgeon, and one of my cousins is a surgeon too. And of course, I call them Mark and Michael. Any case, so back to this. This allows you to send out specific targeted messaging to specific recipients so that you're not beating up your entire database. This is really important. If you constantly email your database and everybody gets the same message, they're going to know that. It's going to look like you sent out a broadcast message trying to speak to everybody, and you're going to have you'll have a very low response rate. So number one, parsing, make it name specific. And number two, make sure the message is specific to that group of recipients based on these additional custom fields you put in. So let me do a quick pause here. Type in, if you have questions, guys, please let me know. What I'm giving you is not very complex, but sadly, most agents don't do this, okay? I've taught a lot of people over the years, and every year I really emphasize this in the beginning of the year, because when you can speak the right message, use the right messaging with the right media to the right market, the right crowd, you're going to be more profitable. You want to be respectful with your marketing. Don't overfish that pond. It's easier to ask referrals that way. It's just a much better way to conduct business. It also allows you to do other forms of marketing. So in other words, you can create custom databases on Facebook, for example. So you can create an Excel spreadsheet from your contact management system of only the investors who are interested in flipping. Okay, then you upload that to import it to Facebook and create what's called a custom audience. Okay, and you can ask Facebook to basically clone that audience, and they'll go out there and they'll find all the other Facebook contacts that have similar profiles to the people you just loaded up in your custom audience. And then you can send out a marketing piece to just those people who are interested in flipping because you did a custom database. So you don't have to go through Facebook and go through the selection of all the different categories and criteria to try to narrow it down that way, because I guarantee you Facebook doesn't have a category for flipping. But if you do the custom audience and you ask in Facebook, you can command it to clone that audience, you've already got people who are interested in most likely to be interested in flipping. So you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of collateral benefits to doing this, guys. You can send custom YouTube videos to just those people. You can invite just those people to a specific Facebook Live broadcast. Okay, so you can, in other words, you can now use social media much more intelligently. But you can also do printed material. Okay, so the booklet, for example, yes, you can send that electronically to your database, but you can also send them a printed version in the mail. And believe it or not, you should definitely do that because some people like holding something in their hands. Here, let's see if I've got something here. No, I really don't, but this is something I created earlier today, a spreadsheet for myself. Some people just like holding stuff like this, okay? So you should test your market. So send a booklet electronically to, say, just the people interested in buying rentals through an email to those people from your database. And you'll get some responses. Now, the ones who don't, maybe do it 3 months in a row. And the ones who don't respond to anything, maybe send them a printed version in the mail and see if they don't respond to that, and send several of those every month, right? And you might find out that some people prefer having this physically, and some people just want the email. But when you know their communication preference, you should also put that in your contact management system. Say, make a comment, like I have a category, email response, scale of 1 to 10, 1 not really responding much, 10 responding a lot. And the ones who are like ones consistently, send them the printed version. Then you can put in there another category saying responsive to printed material. You can categorize them 1 to 10. So in any case, you see what I'm talking about here? If you can give me some feedback, let me know, because I want to make sure I actually got everything covered. Hang on just 1 second. All right, so we talked about building the database, adding to it, segmenting it, and then we talked about some marketing. So that's pretty much tonight's subject. I do have an email to go over with you guys. This is from Kim Phillips. Kim, I hope you're on. If not, I will, you obviously want to get the recording if you're watching this in recorded mode. Let's go to Kim Phillips' email and see what she is saying here. So give me a second, guys, and I'll share this with you. All right, Kim Phillips. And let's see. Okay, let me go back here and hit share real quick, guys. Hang on just 1 second, okay? I'm gonna share this. Okay, you should all now be seeing my email account with the email from Kim Phillips. If somebody could give me a quick chat here, just let me know that you can see my screen. Okay, hang on 1 second. Let me just double check this. And Louis, brilliant use of segmentation. Thanks, Louis. I thought somebody just sent in a new message, but it didn't pop up here. That's strange. Okay, so here it is. All right. Hi, Gary. Hope you're doing well. Here are some questions for tonight's webinar. How do I write the letter for a specific property geared towards me as the buyer and not the client? Excellent question, Kim. So let me go to the letter here. Hang on 1 second. So let me go grab that. Documents. Actually, let me see if I got it in downloads. Let's see, letter. Booklet, checklist, investor addendum, letter to owners. Okay, come on, computer. Sorry, it's a little bit slow tonight, guys. Here it is. Okay, so let me do a screen share on that. Share this. Okay, now I should see the letter. Okay, so for Kim and everyone else, here's the part where if you're using this letter to represent yourself, right here where it says, and I have clients like Mr. Matajasic, all you do is simply take that out and say, I'm interested in properties just like yours, or I want to buy a property just like yours. So for here, I'm going to just rephrase, excuse me. Here's the old version, the version you're using for an agent representing clients. You would say, and I have clients like Mr. Matajasic or whoever last name you're using who, okay, all of that gets replaced with the single letter I. So here, let's go through the letter. Dear Clay, I'm writing to you about your property located 17 Elm Lane in Etna. I'm not suggesting you sell your property if you don't want to. However, inventory is tight right now, and I have clients like Mr. Matajasic who want to buy a property, 4-unit building in this example, just like yours in your area. That's if you're representing clients. Here's you representing yourself. Hi, I'm Gary Wilson. I'm interested in, Dear Clay, I'm writing to you about your property located at 17 Elm Lane in Etna. I'm not suggesting you sell your property if you don't want to. However, inventory is tight right now, and I'm interested in buying property, buying a 4-unit building just like yours in your area. That's the only difference. The other difference down here is if you're not an agent, you don't have to tell them that. If you are an agent, you got to put in here that you're an agent right here. Win Realty Advisors, Win Realty Team, okay? You've got it. And by the way, I learned this from a great mentor of mine. Always put in your contact information, not just your phone number, email address. Put your street address too. It turns out you actually will have higher response rates by putting in a real, honest to goodness street address. I think what it is, it lends more credibility to you. People just assume it's more legitimate. You're a real person. I mean, quite frankly, I feel the same way. If all I got was a name, an email, I may or may not respond. But if I got name, address, phone number, email, you know what? I know I can, the person looks legit, I can find them. So in any case, that's Kim's first question. Let's go back to the email. Okay, when doing a school report, do you research only one property type, such as single family, or do you search all items? In other words, single family, condo, townhome, multifamily, separately altogether. So Kim, we actually, everything is on that report. Now remember, the example I always give is one from the residential database. So that would include anything up to and including 4 units. So that would be your single family homes, that would be condos, townhomes, multifamily properties, single attached, all the categories in the residential database would be represented in that school report. So I would, again, just do one report with all categories in that report, because those are typically going to be, well, for the most part, owner-occupied properties. Now, for the ones that aren't, that's why we use the Melissa data to help us determine which ones are owner-occupied, which ones are tenant-occupied, right? So in any case, well, that was a good quick email. How about that? All right, so let me go back here. I think that's pretty much it, guys. Let me reduce this and reduce that. Get out of here. Now we're back here. Whoops, excuse me. Sorry, something about hockey just popped up there. Okay, I'm going to go back to screen sharing. And let's get rid of that. Actually, let's drop the screen share on that. Well, I don't want to stop that. Okay, let me go to the chat box. I see some chats here, and then we'll start to wrap this one up. Okay, so this is from Tanya. Hi, Tanya. Would you have a sample sheet of a database using the numbering system and subcategories? I'd have to check with Beverly, Tanya, because I haven't done that for, I mean, we use it, but I don't even think I have access to it, quite frankly, because it costs money every time we have a license. So Beverly could probably give us an example. So Beverly's going to watch this tomorrow. She's going to hear this, and maybe we can have an example from, I think we did have one, by the way, from the old top producer days, and even on the new contact management system, which is called Keep. There might be a way to give you an example of a record and how they're categorized, okay? Because we've got agents in there, investors, I mean, all kinds of people in that database. Let's see, Tanya, yes, it is a good question. Thanks, Louis. So if we come up with a sample, we'll definitely share it. So let's just rely on Beverly. If we have a record or a printout or a copy of the top producer, that's the best example that we're going to be able to give you, okay? If not, we'll have to use something from Keep. Either way, they're both contact management systems, and you can see how the records are, you can add what's called tags to a record. Each record's tagged a certain way. Sometimes they have multiple tags. So in terms of contact management systems, when I talked about adding like a subcategory, or in the case of command, adding a custom field, that's simply you're tagging that record. That's all you're doing, okay? So great question. Guys, I think that's pretty much it. Those are the things I wanted to go over. I didn't realize Kim's email was going to be so short and concise. Normally they take longer to go through those. But for next week, if there's something specific you want me to cover, please do so. Let me give you some ideas I've got written down from some of the folks since like the holidays. Let me go back here real quick. If I can find this. I wrote this down for one of these days to go over with everybody. Okay, here we go. So we'll do a session on social media. We just did one of those a few months ago. We'll do a session on doing a bus tour. Every one of us should be looking at doing bus tours coming up this year. We believe 2020 is looking to be a pretty bang up year, okay? Let's see, we'll do another webinar session just on how to use print media, okay? We'll do another one on how to do joint ventures, okay? We'll do one on how to leverage relationships with restaurants, auto dealerships, boat dealerships, if you're near the water. We'll do another one, how to do joint ventures with lenders, inspectors, insurance people, excuse me, lawyers, financial planners, title companies. They're famous for wanting to do joint ventures with us. We'll do another one, how to work with BNIs. BNI stands for Business Network International, excuse me. Another one we'll do on, BNI and Chamber of Commerce. And finally, we'll do one on getting on TV, okay? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 possible webinars coming up. And what we'll do, guys, is we're going to start creating more checklists on these different ways to market. So it's just like with the booklet and the letter and the workshop. By the way, we've updated the one on the booklet and the one on the workshops. We're going to get that out to you here in the next month or so. That's the checklist and what you do, the instructions, all that. So if you have other ideas, guys, please email me and let me know what subject you want to cover. But for right now, those are the next 6 or 7 weeks we've got lined up there. But as always, I would rather, quite frankly, answer specific questions because it tells me you're engaging with the material and you're executing and taking action. And you're actually thinking about it. Okay, we call it engagement. Plus, it usually leads to some great conversations. I can unmute you. We can do role playing. By the way, if you want to do role playing, let me know that also. I can probably come up with a couple of books you can read and study on how to come up with language patterns. Okay, language patterns are what we use in marketing. So we speak the right language. You give the right messages to the right people using the right media. It's called the marketing triangle: market, message, media. Okay. In any case, so you don't have to write all that down. I just want you to listen and let me tell you what it is we had in mind for upcoming webinars. If you want to look at specific properties, please submit them to me ahead of time. We can break them down right online. And anything else for that matter. So, okay, well, you guys have yourself a good, wonderful evening. Louis, tomorrow night, I'll be flying right overhead. I'm landing in Toronto tomorrow night. I've got my last session of my Strategic Coach Mastermind in Toronto, so I'll be there for a few days and then back down to Florida. So if you're in Florida, look at the schedule, go to the class schedule when you sign up for class originally. And if I'm going to be anywhere around you, just let me know if you want to meet up for dinner or something like that, guys. I'd rather spend time with you than eating by myself and going to my hotel room by myself. In fact, I've actually spoken at some of our students' workshops before. By the way, before we go, if you could do me a favor, each of you type in a chat box if you have done one or you're interested in doing a workshop. Because we've got a special program we've been developing with some pilot programs up around Massachusetts, Virginia Beach, and I forget the other place. If you're interested in that, let me know, because I want to kind of get you guys involved. Hey, Bill, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. So I know, Bill, I talked about that when I was at your market center last week. So we should definitely get together on that. More to come on that. The purpose is to help you not just have a workshop, but to build it out into a community that'll prosper you and serve your community, but obviously prosper you as a result of doing that. So lots of good stuff there. Some plans to follow, some protocol to follow. And the folks in Massachusetts are actually doing their first one tomorrow night. So I'll keep you posted on that, all right? Okay, you guys take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful rest of the week. God bless you and your families. And we will see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.